What's up, you guys? Today I'm gonna be donning the headset. Honestly, a fun question that I have, what's your favorite look of mine for the face cam? I feel like I come on the face cam in all different types of outfits and with all different types of accessories on sometimes. I think that the headset is a pretty classic look. Maybe even the headset with this up. We'll keep it down for today. This is another look at. I'm using a different mic, so it doesn't even matter. I've talked way too long about the headset. Alright, so basically, I'm gonna do this video and I'm gonna play Sparking Zero. It's a normal Monday. So a normal Monday means we also have a predictions video on deck. UFC Fight Night, Michelle Pereira versus Anthony Hernandez is happening this weekend. I believe it's an Apex card. I'm not sure though if they're fighting in like an actual city, but unimportant. I guess it is important, but I don't know. I think they're fighting in Apex. Austin Lane is gonna be fighting Robelis de Spain as the first fight on the card. Austin Lane is actually butt cake. He's a Justin Taffa victim, which is worse than being a Junior Taffa victim because Justin Taffa is substantially worse than Junior Taffa, and they're both bad. He also lost to Hernandez, and he's like this fat technical kickboxer heavyweight, and he looked horrible in that fight. They both looked horrible. No gas tank, clinch spamming. He looked like he had trial guy technique, like at the MMA gym. He had free trial guy technique in that fight against Hernandez, bro. Robelis de Spain showed that he can easily be wrestled and dominated, as he demonstrated against Waldo Cortez Acosta, but he still looked cool against Parisian. You know, that first fight that he had whenever he knocked that guy out. It's just, we have to be really real with ourselves. As far as kickboxing disciplines go, you could be the greatest taekwondo practicer in the world, bro, but the second you fight like a Muay Thai guy or a traditional style kickboxer who is just as proficient, if not like 75% as proficient at taekwondo as you are, you're losing the fight. Especially in MMA, whenever like distance isn't going to be there for you to just kick them 6 times in a row, like on some taekwondo stuff. And Robelis de Spain's a big boy and he doesn't move as fast as we all expected that he would, you know? Especially if you start wrestling him. But it's just really funny because if this were Mick Parkin, you know, which is like, that's the only really fat heavyweight that I know is good at fighting. Like even Mo Usman, I'd be like, okay, is he gonna win this fight? Probably not. Mick Parkin cleans this guy up, you know. Austin Lane definitely gets whooped by Mick Parkin, and I can't have that same confidence in Austin Lane to win, or Robelis de Spain to beat Austin Lane. So I still want to pick Robelis de Spain just out of the interest of the fact that we need prospects at heavyweight. And Robelis de Spain looked really promising before he did go out sad in his last fight, so he can be kind of dangerous. I'm going to favor him to win by round 2 KO though, just because I want to see him be successful. Do I think it's going to go down like that? Not really. Alright, so the next fight is going to be Alice Ardelian versus Melissa Martinez. So, 9-6, Alice Ardelian, who only has one fight in her UFC career, and she lost to Shauna Bannon, who is actually terrible herself. And 7-1, Melissa Martinez, who only has one fight in the UFC that she herself lost to Elise Reed, is really going to piss me off. Like, this matchup is really going to make me mad. I don't know why it was even made. I guess these women have to fight if they're active fighters, but like, we got some real stinkies moving up the card, and I just want to acknowledge that this, like, watching footage for this fight definitely made me lose a little bit of my sanity, and I was about to crash out on a couple occasions just trying to get through it, but we made it. We're making the video right now. Melissa Martinez, I will say, is a very irresponsible striker. Surprise, surprise. She's going to enter range. It's like, okay, if you throw a fully committed front kick and you're lunging into distance to be punched, you're not going to be in the void to be hit because you just threw a push kick and they're going to be moving backwards. This is how it works, you know. This is just like Newtonian physics, you know. So the thing that I noticed about her is that she'll throw these half committed, like, touch front kicks and lean fully into them, so she's in boxing range. Her opponent didn't move at all, and now she's getting punched because she threw a kick that was supposed to create distance. How were you this bad? How were you this bad at fighting? And like, what I just described to you is the setup that allowed Elise Reed to drop her in their fight. She literally was just throwing these like Hello Kitty jabs, and then she throws a Mickey Mouse front kick with her hands down at her waist whenever she is done throwing the strike. It does nothing, and she's standing chest to chest with Elise Reed, who just blasts her with the right hand, and it sits her down. So one thing that I will say though is like Ardelian has this clip, because I was trying to watch footage of her. She doesn't have a lot. I think that the promotion is called EFL, but she had the title of the video is one of the most one-sided beatdowns in WMMA history, and it was just a smash wrestle fest by Ardelian, and she won against this girl who couldn't defend herself off of her back, you know. And in the striking, Ardelian looked so docile and non-threatening. So I think that her kryptonite is just going to be kickboxers who are able to literally do anything, because her ground control isn't that good and her punches don't look to be that hard. It was just this woman was taking entirely too much damage because she didn't know how to protect herself from positions on the ground. So I think that Melissa Martinez is just going to give Alice Ardelian Shauna Bannon part 2. It's just going to be Shauna Bannon part 2, because Melissa Martinez is a passable kickboxer. Alice Ardelian absolutely sucks at striking. Shauna Bannon wasn't able to be taken down by Ardelian just because she was kicking and using, like, I don't even want to say damaging strikes. They were just like something. They were substantial strikes, you know? And that's what was able to win her the decision. So I think that Melissa Martinez can do that the same way. I don't know why I just spent so much time breaking down this nonce fight. We're going to move on to the next one, which is an even more nonce fight. Jessica Penne versus Elise Reed, who I just mentioned beat one of the girls in the last matchup. Elise Reed just recently was subbed by Lupi Godinez in 2023, who got beaten by Jessica Penne in 2021. And Jessica Penne has been recently armbarred by Tabitha Ricci. I feel like based off of what I just said, and the miles on Jessica Penne, granted she is so like old, Elise Reed does have some miles on her too, but she does have some solid wins. Jessica Penne has beaten the last woman that Elise Reed has lost to, though, but it was 2 years ago, and Lupi Godinez has gotten probably better since then. I don't really follow her career. Jessica Penne should lose this fight, but dude, I'm telling you, I'm sick and tired of watching these fights and looking at these fighters on the card and being like, okay, now I have to make a prediction video versus an apple versus a pair of socks. I can't do it. I don't know who's gonna win this fight. I will probably be in front of my TV, but I'm just gonna be playing the Dragon Ball video game. I'm not gonna be locked for this. We're gonna move on to the next one anyways. Again, I guess this is gonna be the best woman fight that I'm gonna talk about right now, but my god, 3 in a row, dude. 3 women fights in a row is enough to call up, find shit, drive to her house, crack her buns, and then come back before the good fights start. You could literally just be like, oh, sorry, baby, I can't lay up with you right now. I gotta watch Brad Katona fight Gene Matsumoto. It's the next fight. But dude, this is absurd. Why did they give us 3 women's fights back to back to back? Unbelievable, dude. So, Tamaris Vidal versus Jocelyn Edwards is gonna be the matchup. Tamaris Vidal is an absolute waste man, bombaclot. She actually stinks, and she just lost her last fight to Melissa Gatto, which is not a good look for her because Melissa Gatto herself isn't very good. Jocelyn Edwards, though, she just lost to Eileen Perez in like a close fight, which like some maybe would have said it was a robbery if people actually watched WMMA. And if Eileen Perez didn't twerk, you know, like she could rob anybody. We just forgive her because she's twerking, you know. So Jocelyn Edwards, she's technical. She packs decent power for the division. I trust her striking IQ and her ability to keep herself out of danger. I think she's a relatively smart fighter. Vidal won't wrestle, I don't think. And Edwards will tune her up on the feet to a round 3 TKO. And that's what I'm going to go with for that. Thank God that we're out of the woods for those WMA fights. We're going to go on to the next one. Brad Katona versus Gene Matsumoto. Brad Katona is staying active. He won his last fight against Jesse Butler, who honestly, Jesse Butler shouldn't even be fighting. I don't know what he was doing there. He just got wrestled by Brad Katona for 15 minutes, and it's like, it's Brad Katona, mate. It's Brad Katona. I get he won tough, dude, but that was such a non-comp season with Chandler and McGregor and that talent that came out of there. And he got to the UFC and started losing, and now he's been stringing together, like, I guess 2 wins in a row, you know? So We'll see what he ends up doing, if he can keep the momentum going. We just watched Dan Argueta, who is a more durable fighter than Brad Katona, fight and lose to Timarov last weekend. But this is a fighter who Matsumoto has just beaten by submission in round 2. Argueta was looking real tough in that fight. He honestly looked pretty dangerous too, landing a couple of shots against that Timarov guy, but he just broke eventually. I knew this would happen. I called it. I predict these things. Argueta, best asset in a fight against Matsumoto would have been his grappling, but it wasn't enough. There's a truck outside, I think a garbage truck, and it is making so much noise. I'm going to keep on recording. Hopefully it's not audible. Brad Katona's best asset is his grappling. So Argueta demonstrated to be a pretty competent grappler. We've seen Brad Katona wrestle. He's not that good, I don't think. Matsumoto bested Argueta. I think he will best Katona in the same way. Argueta probably has better hands than Brad Katona too. And Matsumoto throws really long punch combinations, and he strings them together with takedowns after his shots. And his finishing instincts on the ground are pretty solid. So Brad Katona, he's no killer. I don't think he has it in him. And he's not fighting Jesse Butler again this weekend, so I'm not going to pick him. I think that a Matsumoto submission again, maybe round 2, is probably going to go down. Or a knockout in the first round. I think he's going to mog this guy and roll over him. So we're going to the next fight. I think that's going to be the featured fight of the prelims. We're on to the main card now. So the first fight's going to be Mateus Nicolau versus Asu Almabayev. And Nicolau is food for this division, and he has a chin made out of sawdust and cupcakes. He has a cocoa melon chin. It hasn't fully developed yet. So he got brutally slapped by Royval and Alex Perez, and I think that Manel Cap may have gotten him out of there too, or that fight just got called off and never happened. So Nicolau is food for this division, and his chin is made out of cupcakes, and it hasn't fully developed yet. Even though he's a grown man, his chin is still baby. He got brutally slapped by Royval with a step-in knee. Alex Pereira got him with this hook over the top. Manel Cap may have gotten him out of there, but I don't think that fight happened. I think it just got scheduled and then called off because Manel Cap can't stay healthy for fight week. That's another dig, but I don't mean it. Please don't beat me up. Asu Almabayev is a Mokaev variant, unfortunately. I think he might be a little bit better at striking, but he's going to come to wrestle, and Nicolau is not going to be ready for it, getting wrestled to death. So I don't think he's going to actually wrestle him to death, but at least to a unanimous decision. So that's what I'm going to go with. I don't think this should come at any surprise either. If you know about Almabayev and the fact that Nicolau is so chinnable, we may even see him go to sleep again, which would be funny. But I think that the unanimous decision for Asu Almabayev is going to be my pick for this fight. It's going to be the smart one. This is going to be a good fight here in the next. Darren Elkins versus Daniel Pineda. I'm going to choose Darren Elkins to win this fight just because this is a perfect fight for the Danger to do what he does best, which is lose horribly until he's cut and blood-soaked and then stage a legendary comeback. Daniel Pineda is pretty much a 500 fighter at this point in this division of featherweight, who has knockout losses to Cub Swanson and was getting beat up by Andre Fili before a Duke de Stupage happened where he was poked in his eye, and he kind of milked it, because he was comfortably losing that fight to Fili, so it ended up getting called a no contest. But you can just review the footage and see what you need to see. He's not good at boxing, though, is the thing. Getting knocked out by Cub Swanson. I get Cub Swanson's pretty adept at boxing, but he's also very old, and this just happened recently, so his grappling control is also not on the same level as Darren Elkins. Whenever he becomes the legendary fighter, damaged Darren Elkins. Darren Elkins is either going to lose this fight via decision, getting wrestled and beat up for 15 minutes, or fulfill the Brian Ortega Eagle prophecy, the Eagle Rebirth prophecy, and he's going to smash his beak and pluck off all of his feathers and his talons, and then he's going to catch an emphatic W in the 3rd round, which I'm going to highly favor to happen. I think it's going to be one of the classic Darren Elkins comebacks that we're used to seeing as a joke and making jokes about. The next fight, Brad Hiestand versus Jake Hadley. Okay, so Garrett Armfield looked like a killer against Brad Katona. Maybe it's just the fact that he is, like I said, not very good. And then he fought Brady Hiestand, and then he got mogged, which was very confusing for me to watch because I didn't understand how he could 180 so bad in the course of 2 fights, Garrett Armfield. But I guess that just must mean that Brady Hiestand is legit. Hiestand himself has a decision loss to Ricky Tercios, which is something to make note of, but he had definitely had some time, and I think some like momentum favors him going into this fight over Hadley, who has more recent losses to Charles Johnson, which isn't too bad, and Cody Durden, which is maybe not too bad, but worse than a loss to Charles Johnson. Fighters in flyweight who are up the rankings, and these are fighters who are up the rankings, but they're not involved themselves in, major title implications. They kind of have a little bit of low-profile fights. I think Charles Johnson's fighting the next match I'm about to break down, but yeah, that's the way I feel about that. Moral victories don't really exist in MMA, so the fact that he lost to those guys doesn't really mean anything. I mean, I guess he might have put up a good fight, but he still got UD'd by both of them, so as good of a fight as you can put up while still getting unanimous decisioned. Hadley is very hittable, and Hiestand is a technical striker, and being able to break down Armfield the way that he did, who is very powerful himself, I think that's a very important win for him to have going into this fight. I'm going to pick Brady Hiestand to win by decision against Jake Hadley. Even though Jake Hadley has fought better guys, he's lost to them, and that Brady Hiestand is going to win. Alright, moving up the card, we have Charles Johnson versus Suma Derji. The match now fight with Suma Derji and the Joshua Van fight with Charles Johnson is all we really need to consider, honestly. Suma Derji is actually horrible and got subbed by the dinosaur Tim Elliott in round 1 of his last fight. Charles Johnson may be one of the slickest boxers in flyweight division right now, fighting a guy who was able to be chinned on occasion by a rocked Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell was literally stunning Suma Derji on shaky legs after getting chinned, and we know that Matt Schnell has no chin. So Johnson via round 1 KO. I'm not going to go really too deep into the analysis of this. We just watched my boy Charles Johnson knock out my other boy Joshua Van. He's going to do really bad things to Suma Derji in this fight. Spoiler alert. The next fight is going to be Rob Font versus Kyler Phillips. So Phillips just got done beating up Pedro Munoz decisively, and this is a really weird fight for me to try to make sense of based off of that, because Sean O'Malley poked Pedro Munoz in the eye after getting his butt beat for like close to a full round and dropping it 10-9 to Pedro Munoz, and then he goes to a title and becomes champion, Kyler Phillips just stood in front of Pedro Munoz and beat him up better than I think I've seen anyone ever beat him recently, so I'm definitely factoring that into consideration. He does hit moderately hard, but that's the thing that worries me in this fight against Rob Font, is because we have seen him expose surging prospects like Adrian Yanez. You gotta hit really hard in order to keep Rob Font at bay. Even though Kyler Phillips has some pretty nice kickboxing and is a lot less stationary and telegraphed than Yanez, he does hit hard himself too. I think if I'm remembering correctly though, Kyler Phillips does have a grappling bag. I would say post all of the damage that he suffered though, Rob Font, I'm gonna pick Kyler Phillips to win this fight just because I think that he does move really well. And I think that Rob Font's going to give up that juicy number 10 ranking to Kyler Phillips. And he has the chance to surprise us all if he knocks out Rob Font. As I'm talking about, he doesn't have that much power. But, if we're talking about the version of Rob Font who fought like Cody Garbrandt, then yeah, I'm taking Rob Font to win this fight. But just not now. I can't. Not after everything that's gone down. So that's the featured fight of the card. Of the main card. The main event now. Main event is going to be Fluffy Hernandez, Anthony Hernandez versus Michel Pereira. So this is one thing that's interesting, is we just saw Anthony Hernandez fight Roman Kopylov, and I would say in terms of like skill on different levels, granted one doesn't do backflips and one does, I would say Roman Kopylov and Michel Pereira are pretty similar MMA fighters in terms of ability and like power and stuff. I don't think that's a really crazy thing to say, honestly. Anthony Hernandez controlled that fight into round 2 and got a sub. And it was easy. It was too easy, was the thing. And that's something that I'm weighing here as well. We really only see Michel Pereira grapple after he's practically knocked someone out and they're on the floor writhing around, or they're severely hurt on their feet and then he goes for a takedown, or sub standing and then pulls guard and then finishes it on the floor. When people shoot like when a fight is neutral, I think that's whenever we see Michel Pereira get a bit uncomfortable. Through his like surging rise, whenever he was doing all those backflips and stuff, I really think it was a fight at 185. I just can't remember properly though. It might have been a fight at welterweight. I want to say it was Chaos Williams. He was doing a bunch of backflips and he didn't win the fight immediately. I think it might have low-key even been Nico Price. He had like a close decision with Nico Price, which is crazy. Like, how is that happening? But yeah, it was either Chaos Williams or Nico Price. One of them were just shooting naked takedowns against Michel Pereira and landing them and getting him so tired to the point where he couldn't even keep up with his own antics. So I think that the no frills style of Anthony Hernandez is going to be what he's going to use to get super far ahead in this fight early and to get that gas tank, you know, like expended so that he can get a sub in either round 2 or 3, I'd say. So yeah, those are my reasons for why I'm going to pick Anthony Hernandez to win this fight. I'd say 15 minutes favors him. Anthony Hernandez, who has a more polished striking from the time that he was knocked out by Kevin Holland. But I mean, that was 2020 Holland, so we have to give him a break. You know, that was another mythical fighter. And most certainly he's going to have the cardio to chain wrestle for 25 minutes, I believe. So we'll see how it goes, but that's going to be my pick for this card and for the rest of the card. Fellas, thank you so much for following up with the content and paying attention to what I do on this platform. You guys are the coolest. I love y'all. So please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're new here, welcome. I make a lot of MMA content. Please follow Bewolf MMA on Instagram too. I'm making a lot of content there. I post every single day, fight memes about the UFC. So I will catch you fellas in the next one. Please stay safe. Have a wonderful day.